So yeah, this lesson is it has a remediation and is the last day where we do the presentation role play. So the students have been practicing with role playing these three different firefighter roles. You have the captain, chief, and engineer, and they all have separate different roles, and they have to collaborate in order to fill in the spaces in their on their template. So the fire
Okay.
chief paper has the template, and each member of the group have to decide on the resources, get together, do some math, and add some critical thinking, how, to strategize how to put out this fire. And what I really like about this is that somewhere along the way, like in this whole 8-day lesson, that they went from this un unrealistic idea of like, okay, how many firefighters you want out there on the ground? And they said, I want 1 million, I want 3,000 million, or something like that. And then later on, when they started to really critical think about actual strategies, that's what these three templates push, is to strategize together. They start to critically think, and then they change their mind about how many of their resources they want, fire trucks, or before he says, I want 100 magicians out there. I'm like, okay, 100 magicians, we'll make room for that. And then later on they go, I don't want any magicians, just 5 firefighters. We need 1 truck here, like that. That's strategizing and critical thinking. That was strong. So starting from the very beginning, we have like a mini lesson about greeting and rules. So it's about setting down the procedure and classroom norms and just reinforcing it. And in lifetime, you'll see like students who actually chant back, I say quietly, oh, there's trash on the floor. I have to go pick that up and throw in the trash can. And I go, oh, stop right there. What do we do when you want to get out of the chair? Right there, caught on camera. So we were able to see how students react to like the actual lesson. Okay, then we move on to like the warm-ups. We actually use clickers. We're opening up this time. This is just to, I think, draw interest to um, firefighting. So on the topic of firefighting, I have a drawing on the board. We name a few things that we have been studying in class, and we're just covering the vocab words. Aerial ladder. There's kids who call everything out. They've learned these words over the 8 days, and then they draw it. So the best drawing uh, gets their board on the board, their little board on the big board, and it gets to participate in our lesson. Whenever I need to reference something, I'll just pull up the little board. They've invested a lot into it, and they cheer when they have the winning board. So using clickers, we're able to just find out who the first place winner is. And so we had to actually do the clicker run 4 times, up to 4 times. We do a lot of that in the 8 days. Okay, so then we move on to the collaborative sequencing. This is probably the biggest part because in the previous class they did not understand the concept um, of what peer assessment was. It's like, okay, we're watching green group now. What group do you write on your paper? And then they go, I'm pink group. And I go, no, 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 no. We are watching another group. We had a hard time before, but this time, we kind of push through it, like they're not feeling happy or whatever, but I'm just like, just patiently, just you guys just wait, just watch, see what happens. Okay, green group, hurry, go. And I kind of do a step-by-step remediation, just a real step-by-step. Like, what do we do next? Okay, one of the 3 roles, engineer spoke first. That's what they decided to do in part 2 of this lesson, to really collaborate and decide in sequencing who goes first, second, and third, giving them the choice. Okay, everyone class, good. So engineer, that's right. He went first. Now, was he loud? And was he um, remembering all his words? Rate 1 through 5. 5 is good. And do some concept checking questions, making sure they understand when to write 1 or 5. those who are in terms of differentiation for teaching them how to do peer assessment was um, that the higher level students, the higher achieving students would kind of get down to the nitty gritty and to be able to like rate a circle like a 4 or 3 or 2, that. Okay, so uh,
And how do you feel like they did with that?
much better, like a 70% rate. This would be the second time that we applied this peer assessment to. So it's on their way. I mean, they're on their way to really understand it. Yeah. So 70% rate, they understand it. Some students, the other 30%, they just circled it before they even saw the presentation. So it was clear that they don't understand yet. Things like that. Right. So collaborative sequencing is actually a new kind of formative assessment that I kind of realized, like, because as you're trying to communicate the information to them, and you want to get an assessment, like, do you guys understand? I just said, okay, just rock paper scissors, because now they have to think, okay, I'm rock paper scissors, but for why? What's the purpose? And I'm watching. Do they understand the purpose? Do they understand the why? Yes, because then I assess the question: who goes first, second, and third, and they actually give me those answers. So it worked. I think in terms of standards, um, I mean, yeah, which standard would that be? Like, okay, this is crazy. Right now, I'm just right now I'm just going through the actual briefing of the lesson plan versus the standards. Sorry about that. I just want to reach out to. Okay, then we do presentation role play. I use the first group as a student-led demonstration so that everyone can understand what they're looking at, what they're actually going to do. So that was a really big mountain for me to climb to really push them over, push them up to, and then they got it. You can see that, like, great. The second group goes on. This blue group, they they did great. In terms of differentiation, that's standard 2, 1 through, I'll say 1 through 3, is that like Elliot would kind of forget his words when he got up there to present. But it's kind of making these accommodations on my feet. I'm like, go ahead and read it. Okay, great. Now I'm going to take the paper from you. Do it one more time. You know, and I was able to do that, luckily, because he read it fast enough the first time. It wasn't so super slow. So I think in terms of Elliot, he has improved a lot in terms of his reading ability or memorization or just presentation especially. But everyone's been practicing, not just in class too. They've been practicing like even before class. In the mornings, I would sit down with them one on one, and kind of review their paper, their role, and I can see what parts need to be cut out. Remember, like in the last video, you were talking about like to apply differentiation the to that lesson. Oh yeah, Elliot had a hard time writing, so there are some things I should cut out. So that's what I did this time, as I cut some stuff out, stuff that were not necessary. Just enough, good enough for his level, or that is age appropriate and level appropriate for that student. I'll just cross things out. Okay, then we cut down to the last part. So we ended with the plagiarist exit ticket, and this is just assessing about the engineer who does this math, like 3 plus 4 firefighters. I want now, who does that, right? Class, and they do the plagiarist. Is it engineer, captain, is it chief? Yeah, like that. So that's it also touches on the cross-disciplinary theme of math, as well as this familiarity of the holes. Okay.
No, I think all this is good. I mean, you've basically done like a whole, it's encompassing multiple subject areas, content areas, as well as working on their communication, their evaluative skills, all of their confidence level, the math. You've encompassed so much in these lessons in this unit. It's good.
Right. It's like bringing all those contents that we've been learning into one, like just hitting home with like.
There's a name for that, and I can't think of it at the moment. It's multiple contents in one unit. There's a specific name for it, and it is project-based learning, but there's another word for that they don't really say anymore. I can't think of what it is, but it's like yeah.
Right. I think that's what more. I think that's what it is more. It's driven. Whatever that is, it's that driven lesson. It is a that driven lesson rather than a PBL driven lesson.
Unit, yeah.
Or unit, yeah.
Because it's really a little mini unit, and you've got lessons within it.
Because I did lay out like what we did each day for the 8 days, and it's just a bunch of little units, and then we put it all together. And I guess I would say it's a PBL because they are preparing to present. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of things. I'm looking through the reflection and like standard 1, meeting student needs. Yeah.
I think so. I think this unit, the mini unit with the lessons, I think you hit everything. You're looking at different needs. You were accommodating on the spot when students were struggling, and that's Vernon. That is a demonstration of an experienced teacher, because a lot of teachers with 3 or 4 years under their belts still have difficulty knowing what to do in that situation, or even recognizing that that's what needs to happen. Like that comes with practice and skill that's developed over time, and that's usually in a 3rd or 4th year teacher that you're seeing that being demonstrated, like you have with this particular PBL. So be proud of yourself for that, because a lot of teachers like see that, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to like, well, they were struggling, but they don't know how, so then they have to go get the resources. But it comes with experience over time, where you sort of like, okay, I think I know what I need to do. Let them use their cards like you did, and then say it, and then try again. So you're giving them that opportunity to fail and then succeed. You're giving them what they need.
Right. I like that. Yeah, it's
huge.
It's about videoing it and targeting the repeating weak points about it, and just really hammering that home. Like
it's knowing your students.
Knowing the students much more, like in terms of how their habits of, their patterns of growth and development, and how they obtain information, and to make the information more attainable for them, connecting it to, it's especially for kindergarten, I really learned like it's a really step-by-step process, like more step-by-step process, and it's going to take a little bit of more time. And okay, great, that's the pace I should go at. I shouldn't go too fast, or expect that you might have to reteach something. No problem. There's going to be
and a lot of times you are under a time crunch, because you've got your pacing. You have to fit in so many things before a milestone test, or it's all driven by testing, unfortunately. So sometimes you don't have that kind of time, but you can kind of make up for it. You'll find with your experience, as you get more experience, that I might not be able to stop at that particular time, but you make a note of it, or you make a note here, and you grab it that next opportunity. So
exactly, grab that next opportunity, either in class, out class, next, anytime. You're able to.
Exactly.
Using, I'm looking at standard 7 and 8, planning for instruction, and number 8 is using evidence-based instructional strategies. So by knowing the students, then you have some evidence-based instruction, like where they're coming from, like what works, things that I've seen online, that I've tested out. I know what works with the kids, and it's evidence-based.
Basically, I don't know if it's really reteaching, but it's providing opportunities, and that's definitely research-based and evidence-based.
And the assessment. So so you get to see clickers, like not just once at the end as an exit ticket. We get to see it as the introduction and the end.
I like the way that you use, different things to assess them so they don't even know they're being assessed. So they're playing something like rock, paper, scissors. They have no idea. They think they're playing a game.
That
And they're
too.
listening, but um, they're not aware that you're actually looking for something. And I think that's really good, because then you get, to me, you get a truer assessment of the student when they're not aware that you're assessing them.
Yes, I love that. Yep, that is definitely analyzing data to meet learning objectives and student learning needs. For
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's really fun about like making timestamps on the lesson plan about where I demonstrated these standards is that you get to see where is it heavy. It's heavy on like student management and standard number 4, content knowledge. And then I realized that ESL is like the whole class of differentiation in terms of standard 4, correcting misconceptions. So, while tackling demonstrating the other standards. I think it went well.
I do. I don't really see a whole lot of areas. I mean, you've still got a couple that are, because they're in kindergarten, but you're addressing all that. So, no, I think you're hitting it really well. The big things, if I were to give you my big things that I really am inspired about, is the way that you brought in evaluative thinking with kindergartners, because they had to, like you said, they started off with I want 100 magicians because they'll just do their magic trick and they'll put out any kind of fire or whatever. So I just send them all over this, whatever they're going to say. But then they showed their understanding, which is your lower level of blooms, is that knowledge base. So they got the knowledge, okay, well, this is what these are all their roles. And then they took it one step further, but then they you brought them to the evaluation stage where they had to evaluate to decide how many, they were going to have. And that's huge. And then the second thing that I would say were one of my top threes for this is the communication thing, for students to be able to get comfortable with communicating their ideas, and you being able to give them the time to do that. That's huge. And then the third thing is being able to think on your feet. That's huge. I mean, that's down the line. A lot of teachers just and they don't get it in the first 1 year, and they may go on to be like amazing teachers, but the first 2 years it's just like, well, this is the way I planned it and this is the way it's supposed to do, and if that student struggles, I don't know what to do. So being able to just go, okay, and it's okay, you seem to be comfortable if it fails, and that's huge. You have to, as a teacher, you have to be comfortable with the fact that whatever you try might fail, and you just need to recognize it and throw it and move on, and not beat it to death and say, it's failing, this is what I have to do. So I don't know. So that thing of being able to think on your feet comes with experience, but some people just naturally have it. And I think you do. So those are my big top threes of, what I noticed about this project base was, and that all fits within your standards. And then, the next ones would be, of course, your assessment, your use of assessments. Just, and that again was something that's ongoing. You're not stopping and assessing them. It's fluid within your lesson.